Welcome to Immigreats, the podcast that highlights stories of immigrants making great contributions in their adopted countries. My name is Munatsi and I'm your host. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe and now live in Texas, USA with my family. Before getting into today's episode, I'm excited to share a word from our sponsor for this episode. I'm grateful for my friends at Alma Law in Dallas, Texas. Alma Law is one of the United States' top immigration law firms. They're a great resource for immigrants already in the United States and for people that are looking for professional assistance to move to the United States. I can confirm that the process of moving to the United States can seem daunting, so everybody needs a friend like Alma Law. Alma Law specializes in handling all manner of immigration cases, from J-1 physician visas, investor and entrepreneur visas, family immigration situations, temporary employment, special petitions, permanent resident adjustments, and employer compliance. You can call them in the U.S. on 972-573-8575 or email them at help@almalaw.com. That's help@almalaw.com to schedule a consultation. You can also visit their website at alma-law.com for more information. I'm excited today to have a conversation with a very, very interesting gentleman. I'm going to be chatting with former U.S. Capitol Police Sergeant Aquilino Gonell. Sergeant Gonell has lived a very interesting life that started with him emigrating as a young boy from the Dominican Republic. He's lived in the United States for most of his life and has just made tremendous impact. I first learned about Sergeant Gonell while just reading up online around the January 6th, 2021 insurrection, really, that happened at the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. The one that, obviously was world news and caused a lot of very uncomfortable conversations here in the United States amongst people that love this country. I find it very ironic that on that particular day, Sergeant Gonell was working at the Capitol, and him being an immigrant essentially had the responsibility of defending the seat of democracy in this country from attack from people that were not immigrants, people that were native-born Americans. And so I'll look forward to letting him tell us a little bit more about his life and his journey, but also about this particular day. But without further ado, let me welcome Sergeant Gonell. Aquilino, thank you so much for joining me. Really, really excited to have this conversation with you.
Great to see you, and thanks for having me, Munatsi, in your show. It's a great honor.
Well, thank you. I've read, some really, cool things about you, about your journey, but also about, the events around January 6th and the impact that it's had on you, from that particular day, but also in terms of your life ever since. And so I'm glad you were able to, say yes to having this conversation, because I think your story does need to be told, because you do, qualify, meet my definition of an immigrant who's made great impact in this country, in the United States. I'd love for us to start with you just kind of telling us a bit about your background. So I know you were born in the Dominican Republic. Just tell us, about your childhood, what it was like growing up in the Dominican Republic and what led to you moving to the United States as a young boy.
I was born in the Dominican Republic in the close to about an hour away from the Haiti border.
Okay.
I used to live with my grandparents as a kid in a rural farm area. And, from early age, I used to be working a lot in the field, milking the cows or cultivating any different crops. And, at early age, I learned that work ethic from my grandparents. Both of them were kind of like hard taskmasters and yet very disciplined, and you had to do certain things the way that they wanted, to a point that, if you don't do it, then you get ass whooped, pretty much. So in a way, nowadays, you don't see that, but looking back, all those things that I went through with them, it served a purpose. It made me who I am today, a person with good character and good morals. So it's kind of like keep me humble a lot of times because I try to remain that way, in a sense that I don't let all the success that I have or accomplishment to go over my head and not remember where I'm coming from, because I do remember where I come from, and I try to help as much as I can. Currently, I'm trying to. I met the president of the Dominican Republic a couple of years ago, and I told him after January 6th, when they learned about my odyssey and everything that I did, I told them, like, look, if you're going to give me anything, just build a role in the community, not something for me, but also, I'm asking something for the community, which will have a bigger impact rather than myself. And hopefully that's still in the works. Hopefully that they will take that in consideration, given that I have promoted in the Dominican Republic as a country and the type of people that we are. And I have successfully demonstrated that I could be loyal to both countries and protect those who are indefensible.
No, that's fantastic. No, thank you. Congratulations on all those accolades, and I'm inspired by your humility and your love for the community at large, for sure. You moved to the United States when you were about 12 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah, my dad, when I was 90 years old, he began the process of filing for petition, and when I was 12 years old, that's when he finally we got the opportunity to immigrate. I arrived in Brooklyn, New York, in the Instant Parkway. Back then, it used to be like a ghetto area. There are a lot of crimes back then, robberies, theft, murders, and things, shootings. So very, very challenging, especially when you're trying to do the right thing, especially when you're trying to get an education, especially when you're trying to learn the culture, get an education. So it's a lot of things that any wrong choices that I would have probably made would have had taken me to a different path. But, ultimately I chose to not do any drugs. I chose not to do all that theft or getting into a gang, all those things that are pulling you left and right because the peer pressure or the society circumstances get you to make those decisions. I find myself with a strong will that and later on, it wasn't easy because at some point, as I mentioned in my book, American Shield, I contemplated returning to the Dominican Republic and staying there. And if it wasn't because my conversation with my grandfather, he passed away in an accident in 2007. That to me, that was very, life changing because I almost didn't come back. I wanted to stay. I wanted to, because I was having such challenge and difficult situation, assimilating to this great country and its culture. And, out of 9 classes in high school, I only passed Spanish and physical education, which it wasn't that great. But he talked to me, my grandfather, and he told me to give it another try, to seek help whenever I could. And that's what I did, leading to turning around my grades, making the dean list, changing my GPA, graduating from college. Then I had to figure out how to pay for college. And one was, in a way, navigating that ordeal, I came up with joining the military, and that's what I did. But before that, all these things were happening. I was having family issues with my dad and relationships. So there's a lot of things that were like pulling me away or apart, pulling me different directions, that I could have just had as easily taking the wrong decision and turn out differently for my life now.
I see. Which branch of the military did you end up joining?
I ended up joining the Army Reserves. I stayed there for 8 years. In 2003 to 2005, I ended up mobilized to Iraq. I was in the second wave of soldiers who were sent to Iraq, and I did a 1 year over there. So basically, 2004, I spent the whole year in country in Iraq, where a lot of different things happened to me. Different things happened. I shouldn't be here. A couple of times things happened over there. So I kept finding, like, my whole life I've been always like, I don't know if I'm a magnet to certain things, but I keep finding myself in certain situations where I had to make a split second decisions or choose between right and wrong. And most of the time I had chosen to do the right thing. And that had kept me, one, alive, two, out of trouble, and two, being the person that I am, and humble. Once I came back from Iraq, I came back and finished my education, my college education. I graduated. Then trying to figure out my relationship with my girlfriend at that time, and also what to do with the rest of my life. I ended up moving to Washington, D.C., where I became a police officer with the United States Capitol in 2006. And I remained there for the majority of my time, 17 years as a police officer. I protected dignitary, foreign leaders, presidents, celebrities, the Pope, justices. So it's a great job. It's a great opportunity. Never in my life did I ever thought that a kid from the rural area, from the farm area in the Dominican Republic, in a poor region, would have come to this country and then later on find himself protecting those powerful people, people who make or shape our history, not only here in this country, but the trajectory of how other countries see the United States and policies, how they change it. So it was an incredible job, and I was honored to do it for 17 years, where I got to see history being made every single day. And unfortunately, I find myself again in the thick of things happening. I never thought I would be making history myself. I always kind of like been the observer in a way at the Capitol. But given the fact that January 6th was a political event and a lot of things were happening, I couldn't help but to defend the principle of this country, the same principles that when you are as an immigrant hear those things in our own country, America, the land of the freedom, America, the place where you could become anybody you want to, become successful, where people are being treated equal, people were are being held accountable, nobody's above the law. So I bought into those things and those principles and values. Now, that does not mean that this country had been great at doing those things, but for the majority of the time, those principles and values have been, in my experience, had been very accurate, and in terms of holding people accountable and not. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, the United States has not always held their end of the bargain, but for the most part, it has. Yeah. And I'm grateful that I was able to, as a military person myself, a former soldier and a vet, I felt my duty to continue to defend those values and principles, to the point that I became a police officer to continue my service after the military. And I found myself on January 6th in the middle of it, and I couldn't help it but to do my job and keep my oath.
I see. Yeah, no, that's impressive. I think I agree with you 100%. That first of all, I don't know that there's a perfect country in the world, and the United States certainly isn't perfect. And but what is attractive and what's been attractive about the United States for many people are those ideals. Yeah. And the country's attempts, to continue to strive for those ideals
to make better.
To myself and to many people. So I understand exactly what you mean when you say that. Can you just talk to me a bit about the day of January 6th? I'm curious. I mean, for me, I was here in Texas. I just remember turning on the television and suddenly kind of seeing on the news them talking about riots at the Capitol, and not long after that, the Capitol doors have been breached, and all this, and I'm seeing stuff on social media of people scrambling from there, and elected officials tweeting to say we're under attack, and just that just crazy stuff. Yeah. And I remember kind of thinking, this cannot be America. I've seen or learned of similar situations in other countries,
Mhm.
where democracy, is not known to be as entrenched as what the United States, my understanding of democracy in the United States. So it was just crazy to me. Nothing I'd ever expected to see happening. And so I'm curious to just learn from you, what it was like being in there, and just the effect that it's had on you as a result.
I mean, it's pretty much, I felt the same way like you did. I'm like, I can't believe this shit is happening here in America. Where thousands of people felt betrayed by the results of the juries of the election, and then they took on incited or led to believe that everything it was a rig. So and then not only did he let those people to believe, but then he told them where to go. In my opinion, he's the former president. He's culpable of what those events. He wanted those people to attack the Capitol. It didn't matter whether we were police officer or not. It didn't matter whether we were immigrants or we were defending the Capitol. So I eventually, when I saw the mob attacking my co-workers and then later on myself, I was like, this is not the United States that I sworn to protect. This is something a lot worse, and all because this person didn't believe that he lost. Imagine if the other Democrats would do the same thing. How would they feel? And you don't have to contemplate too far away from that. Imagine this year, if Joe Biden lose and he tried to do the same thing, I'm sure the Republican side, they were going to start crying, civil war, blah, blah, blah. We're going to, but they want to be okay with what they did on January 6th. It was a mortar-prone attack on our system of governance. There's an attack on the electoral process. There's an attack on the judicial process. There's an physical attack at the Capitol to intimidate the members of Congress and senators. So there's a lot of things that were happening at the same time. And God forbid if he doesn't get his way again, or Biden decides to do the same thing. I'm pretty certain he won't do it or try to. But if Joe Biden, Kamala Harris tried to do the same thing that he would, the whole Republican Party or Republican in general, they'll be crying civil war. Let's go get him. Let's hang him. Let's do whatever. For me, January 6th had not been easy. I'm still dealing with the ramification from that day in court. In my life, I lost my career. I lost my health and my financial stability. I had PTSD. I had physical injuries that I needed 2 surgeries, a lot of physical therapy. And then you had the moral injury as well, because I did the right thing. I did my job. I kept my oath. And yet you have a great amount of the population, including the same elected officials who I risked my life to protect on that day. They tell me that January 6th wasn't as bad as I say it was, or January 6th didn't happen, or January 6th it was just a tourist visa, or nothing happened. Okay, nothing happened to who? To them that got to escape with their lives because the efforts that I did and my colleagues. Yes, nothing happened to them, but I had surgeries. I had the trauma. I had the physical injuries where my hands were bleeding. I had a surgery on my left shoulder and another surgery on my right foot. And then they had the audacity to tell me that it was my friends or my supporters. Nothing happened. And then they go into the Department of Justice the same day I'm testifying in front of Congress to demand that those people are released. The same people who attacked me, the same people who are hunting them down room by room, they want those people to be free. And then to add insult to injuries and trigger the moral injury, what they had done is that they call them patriots. They call them hostages. They call them political prisoners. If those people were those things, then who are we, the police officers, then? To them. Were we the bad guys? Because we stopped them? And I didn't do those things to get a medal or an award or accolades. I did it because it was my job. I did it because as a former military person, I felt compelled to do my job. I felt compelled that there was an attack happening at the Capitol and I needed to protect those people inside. Didn't matter whether they were Republican, Democrat, Independent, or gay or straight, religious or not. All I cared was that there are people behind me. I need to protect them and my colleagues. And I was willing to risk my life on that. Like I say in my book, American Shield. And I feel like I have been betrayed, not only by those people who are risking my life and that they ran to safety and made it to safety, but also the former president. You know what I mean? Like, God forbid I would do one of those things that he had been alleged to have done or not done by action or inaction. I would be in jail by now, or worse, I would be in jail, then do my time, pay the fine, and then get my ass deported overseas, right where I started. You know, because as a condition of you becoming a U.S. citizen, you have to be a good standing to the society.
Right.
And if you are not, your ass is going back to wherever you came from. And that's what the irony is. Like, all these people who were attacking the Capitol were born here in the United States. And here are myself and a whole bunch of other immigrants that work at the Capitol, because the Capitol is a diverse department. And there's a lot of people from Africa, people from the Caribbean, people from Europe, from the Middle East, you know, you name it. We have all kinds of people working there. And most of them are immigrants. People who not only are making a decent paycheck, but people who are compelled to and believe what this country, the principles of this country, because we know where we come from. Those things are not granted. Those things are a dream for you to be able to speak up and not get arrested, for you to demonstrate and not get arrested, for you to do, you know, whatever things freedom you have here. That's a wish that a lot of people in other countries will never get.
Right.
And on that day, yes, we saw the peaceful people. Yes, they were peaceful where they were by the peace circle. And then they started breaching the Capitol, and then they were attacking the Capitol. Then attacked the police officer, and the violence and this and this and that. So the whole thing, to me, for them to claim that they are the party of law and order, the rule of law, we back the police. You're not showing me that you do at all. And until you show me otherwise, I will never believe you. I will never, because now you're saying to me, it's just a slogan. Publicly, you're telling me you do, but by actions or inaction, you are not doing anything to support me. And that's ridiculous and very disappointing in my part regarding them.
Gotcha. So in the last few years, since the January 6th incident happened, I've had many conversations with friends that I know, living in Texas generally, would see themselves as Republican. And Texas is generally known as, one of the more conservative states in the United States. But I have been very encouraged, when I've heard, people that definitely say, look, I vote Republican generally. And I've heard them express their disgust at, what happened on January 6th and say, look, I may not be a big fan of, say, Joe Biden or this, Democratic, candidate. But I certainly believe that what happened that day, was embarrassing and just something that should never happen in the United States, and something that should be punished, to the full extent of the law, because we want to preserve democracy. And hearing them say democracy means, I want my vote to be counted. But if my candidate, my preferred candidate, doesn't win, that does not give anyone the right to march on the Capitol or anywhere, and put people in harm's way. So I have found that encouraging, as I've had conversations over these past few years, because the sense that I've picked up is those ideals that you've talked about, that you have found attractive about America, that I've found attractive about America, that many of these friends that I've talked to, hold these ideals, dear to their hearts, and want America to get back to the place where we all agree that these ideals are sacred and should be protected at all costs.
The thing with that is, like, you have people that are being told what to think and how to act. They're refusing to use their own judgment about certain things, or believe even their own eyes or their own ears. Like, the big lie, from the former president. Everything is rigged. If he keep losing, everything is rigged. But if he wins, then everything is okay. And you can live your life like that because, I'll give you a perfect example. Last night, I think the Powerball or the Mega Million, I didn't win. That's almost close to $1 billion. Does that mean that I get to go to the headquarters and start breaking shit and tell them, Ray, I won. What do you think is going to happen to me if I start doing that?
Right.
You see what I mean? So you need to learn people need to learn how to lose and how to behave, because not everything is about you. Not everything is about him. People, they should take a look, because you're going to tell me that some of the same people who won during the last election, they got to go to Congress. They got to go to their state or council or position of power when elected positions. And everybody else was elected except for this guy. And they okay with them being elected in the same election that many of them are saying the whole election was rigged or we had irregularities. Okay, does that mean then that you are in a position of power that you shouldn't be because there were irregularities? So
you're right.
So you need to think about it. Everybody else colluded just to elect everybody else except for this guy.
Yeah.
That made no sense.
That I don't think that that there's been some real critical thinking that's been happening in certain circles for sure. What caused the problem for sure.
And that's what I'm saying. Like even though he'll tell his follower the sky is purple right now, and then they will be like, oh, the sky is purple, and they'll repeat that, and then he start hearing it. Well, there's a lot of people saying the sky is purple. Well, they're only saying that because you said it.
Right.
And when the only thing that they could do is, they should, let me go outside and check if the sky is purple.
Right.
If not, then somebody's lying to me. Because the only reason I'm going to tell you, way I'm going to tell you that the sky is purple is if I have a gun in my head, and then you trying to say, if you don't say the sky is purple, then I'm going to take you out. And then the minute you let me go, I'm like, this guy is crazy. He almost killed me because I wouldn't say that. Or if you hire somebody to do a job and that person don't do the good job, but he tells you that he did a good job, you're gonna hire him again? I doubt that.
Right.
I doubt that. So people need to be more real, live in reality, and realize that at the end of the day we are Americans. At the end of the day we have more in common, more things in common than what divides us. And just because you believe that a book should be done one way doesn't mean that's the only way. Come talk to me. Just like you say, you have a lot of Republican friends. People need to have that communication to understand each other and where we come from. Because at the end of the day, politicians are going to be politicians, and things they're going to continue doing their lives. And unfortunately, I learned the hard way that a lot of them, they don't care about the truth or what happened to you or to me. And like I said, some of the very same people who have risked my life, now they call me a liar. Now they had not even say thank you for protecting me. Or I'm sorry that you went through those things, and belittle or desecrate the sacrifices that we did on January 6th to protect them.
Yeah, I hear you. So you, after you, I think, got out of the Capitol Police Force, you wrote a book.
Yes.
I believe American Shield, the Immigrant Sergeant Who Defended Democracy.
This is right here. This the bad boy right there. I wrote a book telling a little bit, like you said, like I was explaining to you about my life from the time I was growing up in the Dominican Republic with my grandparents to the things that happened to me, to my family when I arrived in Brooklyn in 1992, getting an education, joining the military, going to Iraq and to war. Coming back, joining the police. There's a lot of different layers within the book. The book is not just about January 6th. It's about sacrifices, overcoming obstacles and challenges, and also to continue my public service. And I may not be a police officer, but I continue to be engaged in investigation through the FBI and also testifying and attesting in court um, about what happened to me, especially those people who attacked me at the Capitol. I want to hold them accountable. Roughly 40 to 70 people attacked me on that day. Many of them did different things. I required 2 surgeries. I have physical scars, mental scar, and the moral injury as well. So I continue to be engaged in bringing them to justice, providing a statement to the court, telling the judges exactly what happened to me, what each individual did to me. They found me very credible. They had the pictures, the videos, and things like that. It makes me a good witness in testifying. And also, I also dedicated the book to my heritage. There's a lot of things that happen, from the angle of the immigrant, assimilation, the hardship that you encounter, some of the things that you had to leave behind, some of the things that you learn as we come here. So there's different things that were happening within the book. But ultimately, I just want people to know the type of people that we are, immigrants, because a lot of times we hear not only on the news but from people that don't know how it is or how hard it is to immigrate to this country, that we are taking advantage of the system or taking somebody else's job. But we come here for millions of reasons, and each person has their own reason to do so. I just wish the process would be a little less more friendly, a little more compassion in terms of that. But immigrating here to this country is very hard, and it takes a lot of the person who does, because not only we had to work for sustaining ourselves here in the United States, but we also had to make enough money to send back home. That's not easy. You have to work twice or 3 times as hard as John Doe that was born here, and they don't see that. We are willing to work all kinds of jobs, even if it means, doing maintenance, even if it is picking up, whatever outside. So we come from and do all kinds of work because we are supposed to or expected to make it here. Oh, he immigrated to the United States, therefore he has a lot of money. Or, I remember when I started traveling back to DR, people don't realize that we come here and we work our ass off a lot of the time. And then by the time we book the flight to go back, that's when we start buying the new good clothes. That's when that's when we start getting the new sneakers. And that's all the people, when we go back, that's all they see. Oh, wow, look at this guy. He's making enough money. Look how much progress he had made. But they don't know that you had to borrow money to buy those clothes. Or you had to sacrifice 2 paychecks to get that. So, or do a layaways like back in the day. So it's very challenging. So
I understand. So tell me, if somebody wants to buy a copy of your book, where's the best place to order?
The book American Shield is available in both audio and hard copy. You could get it through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or wherever you normally get your books from. But if you do get it, please, I'm asking you to review it. It will go a long way, because the more review it has, the more people will be willing to buy it, and also spread the word that about not only about the book, but that I'm an immigrant, somebody who has defended the country, both like they say in the Pledge of Allegiance, from a home and abroad, from foreign and native-born citizens. So it's also available in Spanish and English. So it's just look for my name. You could probably also find me on social media, on Twitter or X, as it's called now, Sergeant AQGO. Same thing with Instagram, TikTok, and all those things. Just search for for my last first and last name, Okama.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Aquilino. I've enjoyed having this conversation and just learning from you. I'm hoping that, some of our, viewers and listeners, will, enjoy the conversation as much as I have, and spread the word, because I think, it's important to me, for people to hear stories of, immigrants that are making an impact from all walks of life. And so, you've made an impact, as a member of the military. You've made an impact as a member of, the police force. And obviously you were present at, on probably, what might be the darkest day in, the capital's history in a really long time, just in terms of, what you've heard, because I've not heard a single, member of Congress, at least anyone that I, whose opinion I respect, defending, what happened that day and say it was okay. So I think we can all agree, that was a dark day, and something that we hope that, will not be repeated in American history.
I hope so.
So, yeah. But I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, you taking the time to tell your story in the book too. So to all the viewers and listeners, please go and get you a copy of this book, or order the audiobook and check it out, because I think there's a lot we can all learn from there.
Thank you. And I'm gonna tell you one last thing. I because of the things that I done, especially on January 6th, the President Biden, almost a year and a half ago, he awarded me the Presidential Citizen Medal, and I have also received the Congressional Gold Medal. One of the only, possibly the only Latino immigrant who have received both. I'm not telling you this because I want to boast about it, but
Right.
I would rather trade it for my health and my job, my career, But since they had given it to me, I just want to let you know that the president also quoted me several times. Whenever he says medieval battle, he's talking about my testimony in the testimony that I gave to the congressional committee.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that I done for this country. If you go to my Twitter account, probably see 4 collages of me on January 6th, multiple things.
Okay.
I did what I was supposed to. I kept my oath, and I hope that you guys continue to support me in any way possible. I'm continuing to heal from my injuries and continue to hold those people accountable. And I'm very grateful for you to do this type of work to highlight those immigrants. Last year, also the Carnegie Foundation also honored me with the Great Immigrant story.
Okay.
So I'm also part of that as well. And I couldn't done it with your support. I appreciate it. Once again, this is what the book looks like. Thank you. I appreciate your time and your invitation.
No, thank you, and congratulations on the awards. Those are big time awards that you've received, and I'm glad to hear that you're being recognized for the sacrifices that you've made.
Let me show you right now before I go. That's the Congressional Gold Medal.
Okay.
Nancy Pelosi, she awarded me that, and
Okay.
this is right here. That's the Citizenship Medal. Okay. The other ones are military and police badges.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Congratulations on all those awards, and I do wish you all the best. Going forward, and I will definitely stay in touch on social media and see what interesting things you end up doing in the future. So.
Thank you, and tell your followers to follow me. Appreciate it.
We will. Thank you. So that's the story of Aquilino Gonell, the retired sergeant from the Capitol Police Force, an immigrant who's made great impact on America and the world at large. Please like this podcast and follow us on your podcast player to catch new episodes. You can find us on social media under the name Immigreats. You can visit our website at immigrates.net and enter your email address to join the growing Immigreats community. Until next time.